What's going on, guys? It's EP from the Coach's Vault. I have Terrance, I have Marcus, I have Dustin here. All right, before we get into our subjects, I wanted to say thank you to each one of these guys for allowing the Vault to be kind of their space to talk about what's going on in the world and kind of like allowing the Vault to have an impact in their communities and with themselves. Again, obviously, like we've talked about before, we're a big supporter of the movement. Um, like we, there's no like no lot like no lot. All lives don't matter until Black Lives Matter. Okay, I couldn't say that. I couldn't say that for some reason, but you know where I'm going with this. We love each and every single one of you guys. Even Randy, that he's not here, but I appreciate you guys using the Vault as the platform to speak about stuff. And to be honest, like Marcus's was really, I didn't know you can actually like rhyme. I was like, oh, he's spitting. He's spitting. It was really good because to be honest, I wasn't really expecting it. So I mean, we can segue what we're talking about into that because you're the most recent person. So why don't you talk about what went through your head during your writing and stuff when you wrote that today?
When I was writing that, it really just came down to just thinking about what I really wanted to portray in my message. And so I thought about doing a video. I thought about writing an actual article, but I felt like that was just not enough. That represented like the history of the Black community through song and dance. A lot of all like the Black culture has grown this by words of expression, and poetry was one of the things that I felt that was the easiest and best way to just get my message out, because it brings you in a little bit more in a different tone. It gets you to understand the way that not only that I think, but how the history of all the Black community have felt through the years, because rhyming was always part of that. Singing was always part of that. So it really just tied it all together. And while I was writing it, I thought about every little occurrence that happened with every unarmed killing throughout the years, and how every single time we couldn't express our feelings because we always worry about what we have to tell our kids. And practically with our kids, we have to tell them how to act around the police, how to act around other beings. And this is just one great way to expressing how I felt without it coming off as negative in any aspect, because the poetry is an elegant flow to it that when you're reading it, you just feel like it's a heartwarm felt message that you understand, and it's not something that you automatically get angry about, but you automatically just understand what I'm saying, because now you reading the words and the words are just capturing your mind as you're just sitting there, just going back and forth, just looking at what's happening. So I think it was a great article. Definitely captured what I wanted. It definitely took me some time. It took me almost a week really to actually write it. I was writing it in snippets, especially while I was at the gym. I would stop working out for like a good 5 minutes and write how I felt at that moment. And I had like snippets that I had to like bring all together, which I was able to do. So it was really nice.
That was great. I don't know if you guys, I know, Terrance, you haven't read it yet because Squarespace is down. It's not my fault. I paid the bill. No? You serious? Give me prime again. This is some bullshit, bro. Okay, all right. So, Dustin, you take the lead.
Oh. So where were we?
Doing it too.
Am I? I'm doing it too?
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Oh, okay. But where were we? So, like, you were.
You're bad at this. Am I sounding
I
better?
am. I'm very bad.
Am I sounding better?
Yes, you're sounding better.
All right. So let's go. We were talking about Marcus's how, if you guys haven't read it, I don't know if Terrance and Dustin, have you read his article yet?
Yeah, I read it.
The website was messing up on me.
Yeah, Squarespace is being weird right now, but it's really good. To be honest, I think you should write more like that. I know it's kind of writing about fitness and writing about poetry with fitness doesn't really make sense, but maybe about motivation, I thought was great. So Terrance, why don't you talk about yours, because yours came in a very different kind of mindset because it was still a lot more fresh than a week after. You know what I'm saying? So why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Yeah. For me, the big thing was just I really like what you have put on the coaches wall of like the all lives can't matter, but Black Lives Matter.
Mhm.
So this last one with like the George Floyd, that one just I think this one was like a real big like energy shift for like the nation differently because we always like reacted to a lot of the killing that was going on, but I don't know, something about this last past one that hit, I feel like a lot of people opened their eyes up a little more, and it seems like a lot of people are speaking out a little bit more and just a little more open to just a lot, you know, like the amount of protests that I've seen in New Jersey. I remember like running into a post that had like 3 days in a row, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think even Sunday, just all different towns protesting. I saw what they did out there in LA. It was like a sea of people out protesting. So I do like the awareness that a lot of people are out with it. So a big thing that inspired me to write that article. One, I was definitely angered, but I was just kind of looking at what I've been creating with my clients throughout the years and just seeing like the unity of how fitness brings all different type of backgrounds and cultures and religions together for all one common goal. And it made me think of a deadlift party that I had, what was that, late July, early August, something like that. And I'm just looking around at all the different ethnic groups. I had young people, older people, Muslim people, Christian people, Black people, Asian people. So it's just like all of us just around for one common goal, and we're just here to push each other. You know, you're not thinking about one person being more superior than the other. And I feel like more of that type of message needs to get pushed out there. You know, like let's just come together as everybody. Let's really support each other on a human level. You know, like don't judge somebody based off of what they're wearing or just the shade of their skin. Like that shit makes no sense to me. So that's pretty much where my brain was coming from when I made that article. And honestly, over the weekend, I actually just deleted my Instagram app. I didn't want to be bothered with anything, so I just got around to reposting everybody's stories. Just earlier, I went checked the Coach's Vault stuff, reposted all that on my story, and I just deleted the app again, to be honest with you. So I'm just trying to keep my brain away from certain stuff to not get triggered right now, and then just kind of reinstalling the app when I want to, you know, post some of the stuff that we have going on and just share some messages and not just get caught up in just scrolling around looking at a bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Do your time, bro.
Terrance, I did send you my my actual article, so that way it's on your phone if you want to take a read at. If you want to read it real quick, so that way you can just in this in. But no, that's actually that's pretty nice, man. Pretty good. It was a really good article, so I definitely could feel some of that anger in there.
Yeah, that shit was fresh. It was like really fresh. So that's why I wanted to kind of see where your head was at with it. You know what I mean? So it was like
I feel a lot better. My energy's still the same though.
Yeah,
it's
of course.
If you're not with us, you against us. None of that changed. But my overall well-being feels better. But like I said, I had some like reflection time with myself. So there's a lot of things that I feel like I want to do better for myself and do better for like the community and people like in my circle, and just really get the message spread a little bit differently. Like we all have a part to play, so it starts with us. Yeah. And all of us here even have a platform to speak on it. We all have clients that we work with. We all have communities of people that we can like really spread some good, useful information out there and utilize the talents and the knowledge that we have. So I want to really delve into that a little more, especially over this summer coming.
Yeah, I think that's great, man. I think that really is. All right, Dustin, okay, why don't you talk about your article a little bit?
Well, mine was more so just like, I am mixed. So I haven't met the same discrimination that everybody else I know has faced in the past, my family, friends, my community and all that. But I just wanted to get my voice out there, kind of, whoever read it, if it could lead them to, educate themselves, look at
You
all
go
the
after Miss
petitions.
Prime?
Huh?
You're going after Miss Prime a little bit on mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the
Dang.
computer sucks. That's why.
Yeah.
Huh?
Because Evan's computer sucks.
No, it's
Oh,
not my
yeah,
computer. No. Shut
He's
your mouth.
he's fine on my computer. He's fine on my
Shut your
computer. It's just
mouth.
your computer.
You shut your mouth.
It's just your computer.
Keep going,
But
Justin.
yeah, I mean, I was just, seeing all of the posts and seeing the exposure that it's getting, and it is a movement in the entire world, not just in our nation now. I just wanted to put out the article, put out my voice a little bit to, if anybody read it that, was on the wrong side, to try and push them to educate themselves, look into it and all of that. And, even if they weren't reposting, even if they deleted Instagram because they didn't want to see the flood of posts and everything, pulls on my heart seeing all those posts constantly. Except for that one thread of all the laughing. That was a good one. If you haven't watched that one yet, you should watch that one. But it hurts just seeing all those posts and everything. But kind of just, getting my word out there that it's not just about reposting these posts for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, whatever it may be. Don't let it end after a month. Keep pushing it. It's an entire movement. It should keep going on a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, however long it needs to take for real change to happen. All the shit beforehand in 2020 doesn't mean that, like that quote from Leslie Dwight, doesn't mean 2020 is over. It doesn't mean it should be canceled. This is an uncomfortable year that is going to lead to growth. You see the back up from all the other races, all the other religions, all the other ethnicities, everything. You see the backup from there. It's a year that's going to lead to growth, going to lead to change. The normal we knew beforehand is not going to be the normal after this year. So kind of that's where my article was going, a call for don't let it stop after 2 weeks. Don't let it just be a trend. Just keep pushing. Don't stop. Don't let up. Don't let your foot off the gas.
Yeah, that's definitely an important point. Because sometimes when we do start reacting like that of emotion, which is good, like you were spreading the awareness there, but like don't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Really keep. If we really want to change to be, we have to be consistent.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spread the awareness of it, and not only just keep spreading the awareness of it, start taking the solution. Start thinking of how you can play your part, whether it's on a micro or a macro level.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the more you're consistent with it, the more likely we are to change. And then on top of that, like, we don't lose another person for nothing.
You gotta remember, we've been the black community been fighting this fight for years. It is now, just for the fact that the world saw a modern era lynching is what really sparked the movement for everybody to understand, like, this has been happening to us since 1619. You know what I mean? Like, this has been happening since we got to America. And the fact that everybody's starting to understand that, because we all read the stories, we all, watched the movies of, this of them saying, like, the KKK used to lynch black men were walking down the street. If you saw if a black man saw a white woman stare her direction, he was either going to get beat up or sent to jail. This era, this century has not seen something that was that detrimental. And watching a man die, no matter what race you are, you're still a human. So no matter if you're black, white, Asian, Spanish, you saw a human die that on almost like 2 weeks ago, and that hit everybody hard. And just the fact that you actually saw a person die is what really sparked the movement. And this is something that's definitely going to keep going, because I could definitely understand that there's people in this world that definitely want to see a change, and they understand the fact that we've been going through it for so long that we need a change. So it's definitely going to be something that's going to last, for a long time. But you definitely got to keep talking about it. Definitely got to keep reposting about it. And then, you know, the ones that are very uncomfortable to speak on the issue are the ones that you need to target and actually have a conversation with, because once you can get them to be open and actually speak their mind and speak and actually have them understand what they're feeling, then the message gets through to them and it can continue on to everybody else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're being real eloquent with your speaking, bro. I'm so proud of you.
It's
It's all this writing. It's all this writing. No, but that was great. I 100% agree. I think I'll talk about mine very shortly, so that we can move on with the topic. So I wanted to write mine from a perspective of somebody of a Hispanic man, but somebody with privilege that doesn't really get that shit in check, and has and can actually gain the awareness that they need to actually understand where people are coming from. So I think empathy is something that is forgotten, especially in America, where like we don't really put ourselves in other people's shoes, take enough time to really think about how other people feel when we say certain things, or don't take the time to listen and really connect to what people are saying. Um, and I also wanted to kind of give my personal like growth steps and stuff like that, because I'm a Hispanic man. I'm not black by any nature. You know what I mean? Other than having like Afro Latino in my blood, but I'm Hispanic and I understand my privilege just because of my color of my skin. But I do feel discriminated, but there's not on the same level that you guys feel. So I have to understand that, but I also understand that because I had the privilege um, of being raised in a diverse community where I had like the I had black friends, I had Indian friends, like I got to meet all different races, and like a lot of them are my brothers. Yeah, I mean a lot of them are my sisters, more than my own family, and it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what skin color they are. They're just family. Yeah, I mean it doesn't fucking matter. They're all blood. So I wanted to kind of reach into um telling people that there's no way that you can go ahead and now, like you have to understand where they're coming from this 1619 to what we're doing right now, and take that fucking mile walk with them in their shoes, because you wouldn't fucking last. You know what I mean? I have privilege and I'm Hispanic. You know what I mean? White people see that shit and they don't even think about their own privilege. You know what I mean? They can never put themselves in your shoes. Um, and I also wanted to come from a place of love. You know what I mean? Telling people that because I had the privilege of living in a diverse community, I've had the privilege of meeting people from different races and loving them and making them family. You know what I mean? And in turn, when George Floyd died, obviously I was angered because of the situation, but I was angered because it hurt my family. You know what I mean? Like they're like, bro, like nobody should be this angry. And then to put myself in their shoes, be like, fuck, man, like this whole like this whole system is fucked. And like it hurt my fucking soul to see that shit happen and see the anger that came from Terrance and see the anger that came from Marcus, from Uka, from like people that I call family. Um, like I can't not like say anything. And that's the whole kind of situation where like you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, you empathize, you sympathize, but not only that, you speak, you have an impact, and no matter how small it is, yeah, I mean like even writing, and even speaking about it can shed light to people. Yeah, I mean like people need to check their fucking privilege. Yeah, I mean people need to be able to speak about this stuff and not even be like, hey, like just go up to somebody, be like, hey, bro, I support you, and that's it. You don't need to go ahead and be like this whole George Floyd, like grab somebody by the shoulder and talk about the whole situation. Like, listen, bro, I fucking support you. Listen, I need like I'm letting you know. I know the whole world is burning with the coronavirus and what's going on, but I support you and I support this fucking movement with all my heart. So I wanted to kind of get that into perspective for people. Empathize, love, um, and just check yourself. You know what I mean? Have enough self-awareness to actually check yourself and understand where the position that you're in. You know what I mean? So that's all I want to talk about, really.
The one thing I want to say real quick is I want to say, you know, rest in peace, George Floyd. You know, my condolences to his family. But I would like to say at the same time, thank you, because he is not, I know he's not aware, he's not alive today, but he is one of the biggest activists in the Black community that we have ever seen. Martin Luther King was big, but this is even bigger. because now we have not only every state protesting, but we have other other countries protesting, and that is really big when we can get other countries to protest and come out and say Black Lives Matter and this is a situation that needs to change. This is one of the biggest changes in history that we will ever see. And the year started off with what would you tell your kids about 2020? And first it was like, oh, Kobe died, we're in quarantine. Now it was like, no, 2020, the textbooks, the history textbooks have changed. 2020 was the day that we have seen everybody, come together to fight against police brutality and social injustice in the world. And this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I want to say thank you once again to him, because it wasn't something that was meant to happen. It shouldn't have happened, but it was God's way of saying that this is our best way of changing how things are going to change in the world. So once again, thank you.
Sure, bro. Oh, that was deep, bro. He's getting so eloquent. Like, holy shit. Where has this been like since I've known you? Holy shit. But no, it's true. Okay. Well, now that we're getting on a little bit lighter note, why don't we go ahead and talk about the topics that we want to talk about? Well, obviously we want to talk about that, but the topics that we for fitness and shit like that. You know what I meant. Okay. But so Terrance came up with the idea. He wanted to go over some of our warm-ups in general, some things that we do to prepare ourselves, and some things that we do for our athletes or our clients and stuff like that. So why don't we start off with Terrance? All right, and since I'm speaking, I'll go second. Okay, so nobody look at me acting like I'm gonna copy anybody again. And I have to announce. The worst thing is that I have to announce it and let you know that I'm not gonna copy or I'm gonna go second. I mean, like, this shit's annoying. All right, but go ahead.
Yeah, as you get older, you realize how important warm-ups are. Like when you're younger and you feel like invincible, like at 13, 14, 15, 16, even in your early like 20s, like sometimes you just go into the gym and just like start picking up weights and going ham. But
yeah,
as I got older, like I really saw the importance. I think even more, not even so much of myself, but when I started working with clients, because I've been like active since I've been a kid. So for me, when I got into the gym, like squatting and, push-ups and stuff, like I felt activation like pretty early on. But for a lot of people, when you start working with people in their 30s or 40s that may have never like worked out before, they don't really have the same neuromuscular patterns that I just grew up with just from being naturally active. So getting them to like retract their shoulders or getting them to like activate their glutes on the squat for someone like me who's been active my whole life, it was pretty much like second nature for me. But for other people, it was a little tougher. So finding like a lot of, I would call them like little muscle activation drills, or just like how me and you talked about, Sue Evan, just like really forcing mobility in there for a lot of your clients, because at the end of the day, there's a very small percentage of people that want to do mobility, and especially doing it on their own. It's not really the fun stuff, especially when it comes to training men. So like I would say like a lot of my warm up, I always start with some type of core stability. I'm big on dead bugs. I'm big on bird dogs, things of that nature. I think like over the course of time, I started playing around with different variations. Like I like the bird dog separates that you did for the home training program. That was a big one. Even just making like little plank circuit. And it's all things that you can literally do in like 2 to 3 minutes. You force it in the warm up and then you go on with your regular workout.
Yeah.
And like, so some people don't feel like they have to have a whole ab day or feel like they have to have a whole day that's strictly for mobility. If you just start off like your warm up with a little bit of core stability, if you're doing upper body focus, I'll throw in, I would say, more upper body focused mobility drills, but I'll still throw in lower body mobility just for the sake of getting that full body action. But if it's a lower body day, I'll put more of the focus on like lower body mobility drills, and I'll just make like a big circuit out of everything.
Yeah.
So like, let's say if I'm starting with like a push day in upper body, I'll do a lot of shoulder retraction stuff. I like the snow angels. I like the open books. I like the letter stretches. I like T-spine rotation. A lot of that to just kind of free up the shoulders and free up the upper back and all the pressing that we do just to kind of loosen up the pec major and the pec minor. And then like after that, I'll throw in just like a little core circuit. Some days I'll focus more on like rotation. Some days I'll focus more on like core stability. Some days I'll focus more on lumbar flexion because that's important. Some days I'll do a combination of everything.
Yeah.
So for me, what I found that I kind of warm up the same way as my clients for the most part, you know, just because my style of training is, I guess you would just kind of just think more well-rounded. So I'll do like a little bit of same thing I just told you, core stability. I'll do my upper and lower mobility. And right before like my main exercise, I like to do something to fire up the nervous system. So if it's like a upper body push day, I might do like either medicine ball slams or like explosive push-ups or do like a medicine ball wall throw or something like that. If it's lower body, on a hinge day, I might do like kettlebell swings or like kettlebell overhead snatches, something to just to kind of excite the nervous system. So when I jump into my first set, everything's fired up and I'm pretty much like revved up to work out.
Okay. Nice. All right. So for me, for my clients, I kind of like basically like the program that I write. What I like to do, I always like to start with hip openers. So I'll do like Coach White's, like obviously Dustin knows what hip flow is, the entirety of hip flow. I love hip flow. Hip flow takes too long. I'm too impatient. So I just like to do the hip stuff. I think that's very important for all clients, especially that they sit all day. So they'll always do hip flow. That's always the first thing. Side does their T-spine mobility, their hip mobility, their flexibility in all ranges of motion. And also there's a lot of movement prep with those lateral lunges and then Kazakh squats and stuff like that. I think it's great. I think it's a great opener to start off. Then I always do, no matter what day, because I train my clients full body, no matter what day it is, because I think that's just the most important, because especially I want to see it 3 times a week. So I'll always go a glute activation, and I'll always do an upper body activation, maybe like scapular retractions, band pull aparts, something along the lines of that. And then I'll always do a circuit. So the circuit might not always be core activation, anti-rotation, or anything like that. So depending on what the lift is, I might just do a full lower body circuit or something like that, where it's like 30 seconds of as many as you can do of like hamstring curls, reverse hyper, and like squats and stuff like that. Or I just might do a whole bird dog circuit, you get me? Like fire up their shoulder, fire up their core, and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of like understanding breath and embracing, and a lot of people kind of forget that. So I do a lot of holds. I teach a lot of people breath during that warm up, especially like 90-90 breathing drills on the wall where they put their feet on the wall, how to brace and kind of learn how to use their body as a belt instead of having to think about a belt, and how to properly brace. I do that a lot. That's mainly for my clients. For me, I'm really impatient, but I do agree with Terrance. As I get older, like I need to fucking warm up a lot more. There's no more cheetah method where you just fucking pop under a bar and pray to God that you can get down low enough, because that shit don't work no more. But what I like to do, so it's either for me or my clients, depending on their weakness. I have shitty ankles, and I think we talked about this before with Dustin. We talked about the Squat Bible's ankle reset. So obviously everybody knows where the talus is in the ankle. So that's obviously the little socket right on top of your shin, okay, and then your foot. Well, obviously moves around constantly throughout the day depending on our shoes. So what I like to do is I like to do a banded reset. So I'll put a band right on the tongue of my shoe. I'll put the band on, I'll put it on top of a plate or something like that to like elevate myself. And then I'll just go ahead and keep my whole foot on that plate, and I'll just drill my knee over my toe. And what that allows me to do is realign that talus to the spot that it needs to be. Then I roll it out, okay? Stretch out my calf, roll out my shin and stuff like that. And then I'll stretch it. And what that kind of does, it kind of just relaxes that whole area, realigns your calf into the right spot. And a lot of the times, like, it allows me to like squat 10 times lower than just imagine like if I had like ollie shoes on. Okay, so that'll take me like 3 to 5 minutes, depending. So if I'm doing the lower body day, I'll obviously do that on the deadlift or squat day. If I'm doing upper body day, I mean I'll skip it, or I'll go ahead and do it on the Friday. So I at least do it 3 times a week. But what I like to do is I like to do the wedding warm up. Okay, if you guys don't know who the wedding warm up is, it's Matt Wenning. He used to train at Westside, um, like big fucking world record holder and all that stuff. And he also barely ever got injured, I think, unless that's Donnie Thompson. Okay, but barely got injured. So what the wedding warm up is 14 to 15 minutes on the clock, 4 sets of 25 of simple movements that pre-exhaust your muscles before you go ahead and squat. So let's just say I'm squatting. Okay, I'll go hammy curls 4 sets of 25. I'll go reverse hypers to work on my low back because I have a weak low back, and my glutes don't fire like the right way. And then sometimes I'll do a squat. So you'll do 2 accessory movements in the movement that you're going to do. You do 4 sets of 25 of that, and then what it works on work capacity, and it works on work output and pre-exhaust your muscles, so it actually gives you more of a it warms you up because obviously you're going to be using those muscles for your squat and anyway. You're going to be using your hamstrings, and it works on your weaknesses at the same time. You get a whole bunch of shit done before you even go ahead and get into the bar. The only thing about that is like you pre-exhaust your muscles, you're not going to be able to squat as heavy, but if you do it for an extended period of time, you kind of like get used to it, and at the same time you take that shit away and then you start squatting. And watch your squat numbers go up. So I think I've been using the wedding warm up a lot. And
How long you been doing?
So I've been doing the wedding warm up. So I've been not on and off, on and off if you kind of count. I've been on it for 2 months, coronavirus, then I'm back on it. So I can't tell you the correct number of what's going on with it, but I think it's great. Like I feel activated. I feel not necessarily tired. It doesn't fatigue me. But at the same time, it lights me up exactly where I need to, and it works on my weaknesses. And at the same time, it gives me, but it's injury prevention at the same time because you're working on the spots that you're weak at. So I think it's a great.
I've heard that before because I think I even listened to him when he was on a podcast with Joe DeFranco.
Yeah, that's exactly where I got it from. I went ahead and I so I don't know exactly the exact structure. I listened to the podcast. I wrote down what he said. I was like, all right, well, this kind of sounds like what it is. But like then I watched a couple of videos and stuff like that, and he explains it. So I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like you do 2 accessory movements. So if you're gonna go upper body, you'll say like you'll do a tricep, okay, and then you'll do maybe like a pull. So if I go on my bench day, I'll go TRX rows and I'll go tricep push downs. And then you always do the movement of what you're doing. So if I'm bench pressing, I'll go like something where it's not going to tax me too much but difficult. I'll go neutral grip dumbbell bench, something like that. And that shit lights me up. But like it gets me in the right spot and it makes me practice early on before I have to go into the bar. So it's kind of cool. I like it.
I get bored with stuff a lot, so I like playing around with my training.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's actually really fun, and just like at some point it becomes cardio. You're doing 100 reps like in 15 minutes. You get me? And at the same time, like what happens is that you can kind of like I don't have like a hammy curl machine, so I have to use a band. What you can do is like start increasing weight as you go. To really pre-exhaust yourself. The same thing when you go ahead and you start pressing or you start doing like squats. Just like increase the weight, and at the same time it gets you stronger because you're going ahead and doing general PPP stuff. How many P's did I just put? GPP? I only said 2. Okay, well, you know that. But yeah, man, it's fun. That's my warm up right now. I'm using it as I'm doing the cube method by Brandon Lilly, and I feel great. And like I don't feel any like elbow pain, knee pain that I usually feel in the powerlifting program either. So it's really helping me out with my general bone health and like health in my ligaments and stuff like that, especially the movements that I'm doing. So I think it's great.
Yeah, powerlifting that definitely forced me to change up my warm ups a lot. Like that's why I took such a long break from powerlifting too. My body was just getting fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't at the time like warming up and just like activating my muscles beforehand the right way.
Yeah.
Like efficient way. So
Yeah,
I
I
was
think
like,
what happens is that when he talks about it with DeFranco, like powerlifters, all they do, they get under the bar. It's an empty bar. They go set of 10. Okay, they go up to a 45. They'll do 5. They'll go up to a 225. They'll go 3, and then they'll go 2, and then they'll go 1. Yeah, I mean, you're not getting significant amount of work in your warm up to prepare yourself for what you're doing necessarily. You know what I mean, you're not lighting anything up. You're not activating. You're just doing. I mean, you can pass. You can pass through that and get strong as shit. You know what I mean, but your body's gonna catch up to you. It's like, well, you're not activating. I'm not gonna use it. Yeah, you're not. I'm not gonna use it. You know what I mean, so it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. But why don't we go? Why don't we go, Dustin? What's your warm up with the guys and stuff like that? What's your own warm up?
So for, working at LSU, I get to see the warm-ups from 3 great coaches. Coach Chris, he'll do his hip flow. And then they'll move into complexes that are focused on whatever they're doing for the day. So if we have a pressing focus, it's going to be a lot of shoulder stuff, like pull aparts, around the world, all your basic band complex stuff. If they're squatting, then they'll have goblet squats in that complex, in that warm-up complex, and stuff like that. So kind of just movements that are focused on what you're going to be doing for that day, and that focus on those areas that you're going to be using. But he pretty much, their lifts are full body too. And then Coach G has his entire mobility thing that he does with the guys. And then I know for some of the athletes, they'll get an actual warm up in the true definition of it. They'll jump on a cardio piece for however long as soon as they come in. So they're already, sweating a little bit before they get into the work. So that way, everything's lubed up, ready to go. And then Coach Mel, she does her dynamic warm-ups. And then they'll ramp up their weights, and, they'll have their warm-up sets of their lift, and then they'll kind of ease their way up as they go. So I get to see those 3 do it. So I feel like when I take on, athletes, my own clients and everything, I'll kind of blend it all together. I'll use hip flow, but, maybe dial down a little bit, because it does take a little bit. But it's gotten faster. He shortened it a little bit.
Oh yeah, I bet he did.
But yeah.
So real quick. So if you don't know hip flow, I obviously you guys don't know hip flow. So I just like Terrance knows it because I posted on a video half of it. That's that right there. That hip flow, what I showed you, was not even a quarter of what hip flow is.
Yeah.
oh,
If you do want to look at it and see all of it, it is on Coach Chris's Instagram.
Yeah.
I'll
put you on it.
Yeah, he has a wonderful model that, demonstrates all the movements correctly, perfectly. It was me. But yeah. So for me personally, I do hip flow, but I shorten it. I don't do 7 reps of everything. I do 5 of everything. And depending on what's sticky, I'll spend a little bit more time on those movements. So like lately I've had a bad right hip. So once it stopped hurting, I spend a little bit more time in the Cossack squats, opening those hips up and everything. I spend a little bit more time in the bottom of my squat, just a body weight squat. Pushing those knees out and everything, making sure my feet stay flat and all that, because I got shitty ankles too. Shout out to Years of Sports. But and then after that, I go into Coach Hatch, Coach Matt's barbell complex, which is well, no, you don't know, unless you do. It's 5 clean pulls, 5 power cleans, 5 front squat, 5 presses, 5 back squat, and then 5 overhead squat. So it's a lot of movements back to back to back. So you start sweating as you're doing it. And I do 3 rounds of that. So it gets me nice and ready to go. And then if anything else is a little bit sticky, then I'll add in, like if my shoulders are, feeling it a little bit from a day before or whatever, then I'll throw in, a band complex and stuff like that. So honestly, I'm pretty sweat everything before I get to my weights. And then if I have a snatch day, I'll start with, 40 with a green on the bar. And if that feels weird for whatever reason, I'll take a couple minutes at that before I go up. And then I'll go to 50, 60, 70. So. Yeah.
Olympic lifting shit. All right, Marcus, we know you have to go. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and talk?
First of all, I'm good for right now. No, but how I train my clients is almost different on how I train myself. I practically, also I train my clients much better than I train myself, to be honest with that. I would go through a lot of like dynamic warm ups. Like, I do first I'll start with like that's like your this breathing techniques, because a lot of my clients when they first come in they're very stressful. They're very stressed what they do with their jobs. So just teaching them to like calm down from a day's worth of just stress from work is really helpful in the mind. And then we start working from the bottom of foam rolling, from your feet to your quads, hamstrings, calves, all up the body. Then we start working on doing hip mobility. One of my favorites is 90-90. Getting that done because it's a great way to open up your hips, which is something that a lot of the older population have trouble with. From there, I start working on, going through like mobility from their lumbar spine all the way up through the thoracic spine. Just helping them learn, like, and that's a great way of doing that is cat-cow. It's a great way of just teaching somebody how to like actually maneuver your actual spine, because most people don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? And a lot of positioning with like deadlifts, squats, rows. You need to be able to contort your body in a way that you won't hurt yourself, which most people don't know how to understand. From there, I try to take it into different techniques that we can do. I like to add like animal flow to their warm up. Animal flow is a great way. It's very hard to do, but it gets you sweating, gets your body moving in all different angles and directions. So it targets your legs, your core and your shoulders. So that's something I like to do as well. And then we go to our regular workout. You know what I mean? And I also train my clients full body as well, but I do emphasize certain body parts. So, if we hit, more legs on Monday, I'm gonna focus a little bit more on like, your chest, maybe your back on Wednesday, depending on how many times I see them. For myself, I do a lot of foam rolling as well, primarily because I get screamed at by my fiance for not doing it as much as I should. So she always screams at me if I'm not, if I feel like I'm getting a little aches and pains, she always asks me, do you foam roll? So I have to make sure that I always do so that way I don't get screamed at by her. But I love to warm up with using either the Stairmaster or the treadmill as like a 15-20 minute warm up. When me and Evan used to train, that was like the first thing we would do. We'll foam roll and then hop on the Stairmaster for like 20 minutes.
Fasted. Fucking fasted. I was so I hated life back then. That's why I stopped becoming a bodybuilder, because I just hated myself. I envied you because you loved it, and I hated myself because I kept doing it. I'm like, no, bro, let me be fat. Like, I just wanted to be fat. Yeah, that's it.
That's another thing. I love to train fasted. I normally have my best list when I'm always on E. So if I didn't eat anything that morning, my best list is always going to come, and I always do cardio before I train. It is not the way you're supposed to do it at all, but for some reason, it helps me mentally before I work out. So, but that's how I normally, work out myself, and it's weird, but I love it.
Yeah, I think
You find what
you said what?
Say it again?
you find what works for you after a while.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole grand scheme of things is that even though we all do something for our clients, like majority of the time we just do things that we enjoy. But like we know the importance of like warming up. You know what I mean? And as we're getting older, because I'm about to hit 28 this year, bro. My back hurts all the fucking time and my ankles are shit. Like, I'm dying slowly. So I think just making sure that you're working up and just figuring out the best way for you. That number one, that won't get you injured, and number two, that make you feel good before you actually lift is important. Just don't go under the bar. That shit don't work no more. Just stop going right under the bar. Okay, prepare yourself for the bar, and the bar will do its job after.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When it's a leg day, if I don't do like 200 reps on like leg extensions and leg curls before I even squat, oh my God, I can't even get past like 90 degrees
Yeah.
without being in pain.
No. That sounds scary. You sound like your knees are about to blow out if that don't happen.
Well, I used to wrestle a lot, so it's also bad because I used to.
Like, yeah, and mirror broken. Tell us in the fucking mirror.
Well, I used to wrestle a lot, so all I used to do is shoot in wrestling, and because of that, like just the impact of constantly was like hitting your knee against the mat constantly. It's just like it wasn't great for me at all.
Yeah, sure. All right, so
Shut your mouth.
Such a bitch, I swear to God. All right, anyway, yeah. All right, so let's talk about the last topic. Okay, let's make it as a little shorter, and just because we're a little over time. Okay?
I'll be right back.
Yeah, you go, bro. Bye. Bye. Well, Marcus will be back briefly. He's picking up a package.
Amazon.
Anyway, okay. All right. So why don't we talk about? So I wanted to talk about underlying leadership qualities that you would like to see in maybe a boss or in yourself that people kind of like don't really put into like I mean, people put it into books, but not the first thing that comes into your mind. Okay, so I want to talk about those little things that you want to see in leaders, or you see in leaders already that you kind of want to admire, or you kind of notice that you want to see more often in people, if that makes sense. So since Marcus went last and he's obviously not here, why don't Dustin you go?
So one that not too many people would think about, at least in my mind, even though a leader, they're already in that top position and they already have all these people backing them up. I think that a true leader is still continuing to try and grow, whatever that looks like, from reading, taking other classes, et cetera, whatever it may be. I think that leader is constantly trying to improve themselves, and by doing that, they're gonna, motivate, encourage everybody that's underneath them to grow as well. So I think, self-growth is one that not too many people would think about, but that's what a leader is always trying to do.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. I think, I mean, now in the world of, and I said it before, now in the world of like self-growth books, I mean, like back in the day, people like thought self-help books or self-growth books were self-help, so you had a fucking problem. And now if you haven't read The Art of Not Giving a Fuck, you have a fucking problem. Yeah, what I'm saying, like it's weird how the generations turn. But I do really agree with you with that. Terrance, what are some things that you think of?
For me, I would say kind of like along what Dustin was saying, but more so like I think a leader that can pretty much walk a line, the same lines of like the people that they're leading. So pretty much like not just like blindly just calling shots from afar, like being like in the trenches and being able to pretty much not just talk the talk, but walk the walk along with the people that they're leading. I think that's a really, really, really big important factor when it comes to being a leadership. So you show a lot of the people that you're in charge with, like, look, I'm here in the fight with you, and not only am I gonna fight the right, I can. Is that me messing up?
Yeah, you're the only one talking.
All of us now.
You're talking, and it was bad, but
yeah. All right, keep going.
A leader that can definitely just not just talk the talk, but walk along with their team as well is important.
Yeah. So for me, I think like the underlying thing that people kind of forget in being a leader is, bro, I really had a good one for this too. I really had a good one for this. Hold on. Is that better or worse? Same.
better.
This better?
Yeah.
Okay, fuck. Okay, I was like, this is my shit. All right. Anyway, okay. So for me, one of the underlying things that I think a lot of like leaders miss that they should put more importance to, I think, is elevating the people under them in different ways. I think a good leader understands how the people under them learn, listen, and gain information. And not only that, they are able to communicate with them clearly what they want and um, ask a lot of questions of them, if that makes sense. So I think what happens is a lot of leaders um, just work and just expect people to work. I mean, they don't really take the time out to kind of like, hey, like, what do you want? What do you want in life, and what can I help you? What direction can I kind of help you to get there, or what can I do to kind of put you in that direction? They just want people to work. Um, they forget that, like, if you're in a leadership position and somebody works under you, no matter who that person is, they're looking up to you because you're their boss or you're their leader in a sense. You know what I mean? Never being able to um, ask the person like, what's the next step? You know what I mean? Is a problem of the leader, and you're kind of missing the mark. That's what I kind of feel. And then also kind of being able to understand how they learn and understand how they work best is usually a good sign of a leader. A lot of people have this problem where, like, if somebody doesn't really understand something, they think it's their fault. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you're the problem because you didn't understand what I was saying. Well, maybe you didn't communicate it clearly. I mean, it's not my fault. Maybe it's your fault because you didn't teach me the right way to do it, or you didn't explain clearly enough. So I think a lot of leaders need to understand how to communicate in different ways, and not only that, point the finger back at themselves, and maybe I didn't communicate clearly enough to that person. Um, and then kind of my last thing was uh, more understanding and more asking people and elevating them in different kind of ways. You know what I mean? Like, always communicating, like, hey, like, what did you learn this week? What can we do better? What's the next step for you? How can I get you there? And stuff like that. Like, as a leader, like, you're just not leading that person in that field that you're in. You're leading that person to their next step in life. They're not gonna be there forever. So you got to understand, but like, hey, like, you're here now. What can I do to kind of get you to your next spot? Um, and be in a good place to be in your next spot. You know what I mean? Um, that's kind of like a leader. That's the difference between a boss and a leader. Somebody who just wants you to work, and somebody who wants you to wants to elevate you to the next step. I think that's kind of the underlying thing. It's kind of three things. I kind of went on a weird kind of dynamic with it, but um, just try to elevate somebody. That's all it is, really. That's what a leader should do, is elevate everybody that's under them through different tactics, really. Um, Marcus, because you didn't hear anything, why don't you go ahead, and you can't copy anybody because you weren't here.
You're right. You're right. I look at it as just accountability. Um, and my mentor, which is also my start Evan, my best friend at the same time. I know, fuck you. Um, but the one thing he always said to me was that anything positive that you do, that is you doing it. It's always on you. Anything negative, if you don't hit a certain mark, or if you hit a plateau, it's on me. And at first I didn't understand. I'm like, as a trainer, or I think as a coach, at first I was like, well, if the client, my thought process was like, well, the client is going home and, messing up their diet, that's the client's fault. And he's like, no, 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 no. I have to portray my message in a way that they'll understand. And, if they hit a new PR, like a new PR on the weight, I didn't do shit. You know what I mean? He's like, I didn't do shit. You did it. You know what I mean? Like that client did it. So I can't take credit for it. And that's the way that I look at it. It's all about accountability, because as a leader, you can't take credit for what somebody else does. You know what I mean? Even if you guide them to get to a certain point in life, that's on them. They did it. You just helped along, and you really didn't do as much as they did. But if they fail, that is on you for not being able to properly explain your message to them and help them understand what they need to do to get to that next level. So it's just based upon this accountability as a coach and having yourself know that, you know, any failures is on the coach or the trainer, and any positive, any success is on the client, and to never think anything else other than that.
Yeah, I remember talking to Joe about that. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
I think people forget that they just want, like, coaches want to be like, I did that, like I got them there. Like, no, bro, like they did the work. You probably just guided them to that direction. That's all you
Exactly.
did. Like, here's literally quote, like not quote for quote, but have you guys read Coach to Coach yet?
No.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, it took me 2 days to read that book. I've never read a book that quickly in my life. It is literally like a book I would read every year for the rest of my life. Like, so Coach to Coach is by Mickey Rory, I believe. I don't have the book in front of me. I literally gave it to my intern to read so he can get it. But so the definition of a coach, or what a coach is, if you really look at it, and what Marcus was saying, so what a coach is, back in the day when people were traveling by horse and stuff like that, the thing that the horse was pulling was called the stagecoach. I mean, it got them from point A to point B. I mean, throughout the years, you got the truck, like the bus is called coaches, this called coaches, the plane, the position in the plane is called coach. I mean, it gets you point A to point B. And all coaches do is literally direct a person from point A to point B. That's all we're doing. We're literally transporting somebody from one plane of existence, the place that they didn't hire us for, and then they hired us and we got them here. That's literally what it is. I mean, it's relaying a message, and it's literally like directing them into the right spot. That's what a coach is. I mean, but if I had to recommend a book, like right now, like literally right now, and probably till the end of my life, will probably be that book. I'm not even joking, and I read a lot of books.
And then you said coach to coach, or
Yeah,
coach to
coach to
coach?
coach. That's literally it. Coach,
Okay.
like T-O, coach.
Okay, just double checking because I'm about to just look at this on
It's
Amazon and just
a
to buy it real quick.
real quick read. It's a lot of stories. But here's also, I'm gonna end it with this, because it actually made me laugh, and it was a great story. It's a story in a book, but it's probably, you may have heard it already, you may not. I kind of heard it, but I forgot. Okay, so there was this kid in Brazil, and the kid had one arm, or his left arm was like he had it amputated or something, or he was born without it. So his mom, when he was younger, put him in soccer because obviously he couldn't use his hands in soccer. It didn't work well at all. Okay, he just wasn't coordinated enough to move with one hand to do it. So she's walking around, and if you didn't know, the second biggest population of Japanese people is in Brazil. So they had jiu-jitsu, judo. They had judo at this gym in Brazil. And if you don't know judo is obviously a bunch of throws and stuff like that. So she walked in there, asked the sensei, "Can you coach my kid? He only has one arm." He was like, "Yeah, let's bring him." So brought the kid. The kid got in there, was all excited, got his gi and all that stuff. And they actually gave him a custom gi that didn't have the sleeve on the left side. So it was kind of cool to him. He was feeling really inspired. The coach only taught him defense and one offensive move. That's it. So 6 months go by, only teach him defense, offensive move. The kid comes into the office, and the kid goes, like, why? I want to learn something new. He's like, no, don't worry about it. It's all about perfection. All about perfection. Don't worry about it. Just worry about this. A year goes by. Like, coach, I'm getting bored with this. Like, I don't understand what's going on. The coach never tells him what's going on. He tells him, continue going on. Like, don't worry about it. Like, this is exactly the plan that I have for you. Like, trust me. A year and a half goes by. Like, coach, like, I don't get this. Like, if you don't give me something new to do in like a month, I quit. The coach was like, all right, well, we have a tournament in 1 month. And if you lose this tournament, right, and it's a big tournament, like with a bunch of kids, you lose this tournament, you can quit, and you never have to pay me a dime. It's like, okay. Goes into the tournament, all nervous and shit. Kids are making fun of him because he has one fucking arm. Okay? Goes into the ring, okay? And again, the coach has only taught him defense and one throw. Okay? So he gets into the ring with his first guy, and he gets ready. The guy comes in, okay, throws it, like tries to grab him and stuff like that. Comes back around, does that one offensive move, wins. And everybody's getting crazy. Everybody's going crazy. They're like, bro, like he has one fucking arm. What the hell's going on? How is this possible? So the kid wins another match. The kid wins another match. The kid wins the other match. And he goes into the final match with this kid. The kid makes fun of him. He's like, "Yo, I'm gonna beat your fucking ass," and stuff like that. Like really taunts him, and the kid starts losing confidence. So the coach is like, "Don't worry, like trust me, do exactly what you've been practicing for a year and a half, and you will be fine." So, and what the one thing about all that stuff, practicing that one move year after year and a half, and only one offensive move, one thing happens, it becomes instinct. So the kid goes into that ring again, and the kid throws something, and he does it by instinct. He throws out that kid, and he automatically wins, and everybody goes crazy. And the coach, and so like they celebrate and stuff like that, and the kids in the locker room, and the coach comes in here. The coach was like, "Why didn't you teach me anything? Like, how did I win? Like, I don't get it." And the guy was like, like all the defensive moves, right? He's like, "Yeah, you only know that one throw, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know one throw. How do you defend that one throw?" It's like, "I don't know. You know how you defend that one throw? You gotta use the left arm. It's the only way to fucking." The kid didn't have a left arm, so the only way to defend his offensive move was for the guy to grab a left arm. The only way to do it. So the kid won because the only offensive move that he knew could only be defended with the arm that he didn't have. But because he didn't know that, he perfected a move that worked. But like the thing is that we know, like we have a plan and we can guide you to that. You just have to listen. But at the same time, it's like just listen to the guidance, because at the end of the day, that's what coaches do. We move you from one spot, you know what I mean? And you might not believe in yourself, but sooner or later you may never get it. You may never get the message. You know what I mean? You may never get the message, but one day, like all that shit's gonna happen. You know what I mean? And you're gonna fucking succeed, and you're gonna be like, holy shit, he was right. You know what I mean? And all these lessons that we give like end up being, well, you didn't have a left arm. You won. You know what I mean? Like, I just found it so crazy to me, but it was a great story. So
that is pretty good.
it's literally a great book. And like, even though if you read it, like you probably read a story, and like even though I told you, I think it was just like great.
I like that. It was pretty dope.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a great book. All right, but let's end it. Let's end it there. Unless anybody else got anything to say. No, okay.
No, I'm good.
Well, this is for the viewers. I had to suck in a whole bunch of spit because I'm fucking dehydrated and I'm thirsty. All right, but this is for the viewers, man. We really appreciate all the love and support, and we also really appreciate you giving us feedback and you showing us love during this time of us writing all this stuff. We love every single one of you guys, and again, we support the movement. We will not stop talking about this kind of stuff, even though, I mean, we don't have a huge following. But any impact is an impact. So if anything we write affects one person, then it's a win in our book. But yeah, a share, a like, a follow, a subscribe does a huge thing for us. It keeps us motivated. It keeps us trucking, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, follow us on Instagram at the Coaches Vault. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Go ahead, spread the word. Keep liking our stuff, and go ahead and keep like putting our stuff on our stories. And again, we have a lot more stuff for you guys coming soon. So again, we appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. Really appreciate the talk. Have a good one. That's all I gotta say.
How's it going, guys?
All right, guys. All right, talk to you guys soon. All right.
All right. Bye, y'all.